don't forget, you got that light behind your head, the big light behind your head, which is quite blinding.
There you go. I think it's welcome to the Best Damn Podcast. I am your host, John Keane. As always, I'd like to thank you guys for joining me. I ask that you please add, follow, and subscribe. And remember, check us out, www.spreaker.com/user/Best Damn Podcast. Also, if you're watching here on YouTube, make sure you like, share, comment, subscribe, and click the bell and support the channel at www.paypal.me/Best Damn Podcast. Man, I am super excited. As most of you guys know, today is a big day. I am joined by none other than Mr. Dave Dobbs. What's up, Dave? How's it going, brother?
Hi, man. Yeah, it's great to see you, man. Great to see you. Great to be on your show. I feel, it's great. I love your show, actually. I love your take on it. You got a lovely take on it. You're very unjudgmental. Great overview. Willing to throw some great ideas in there. It's good stuff.
Absolutely. Now, Dave is pretty accomplished individual. He's ran for mayor of London. You wrote the book Laughing Gas. And, I think when it comes to, Planet X research, you're probably one of the top names out there when people think of, kind of pioneering this thing with your model, even to go so far as people have now, named Comet Nibiru the Dave Dobbs object. So, one of the things that really has blown me away, though, Dave, is how you've altered your model over time. You wasn't afraid to change. You have always, really taken this seriously, and you can see that you truly care about, actually giving people a heads up on what you see and how you see it. Now, tell me what kind of got you started into, Planet Nibiru or Planet X and all this, Dave?
Well, I mean, first of all, just staying with the name, the Dave Dobbs object, because I've had so many people kicking me up the arse along the way here, and it's been a massive group effort of people. It probably more likely should be called the Becky Lewis object, because she's actually, I wouldn't say she's caught it more than anyone else, but she's, what it is that we've all kind of worked together in different ways. Maybe it should be called the Steve object, do you know what I mean? Or the Steve Olsen object. And it could have so easily be called the John object or the Alex Lujan. Hopefully, at the end, what we should really do is we should end this show going through at the last point of this show. We should go through the Alex Lujan's latest shot, because really Alex Lujan, his videos are just getting better and better and better. His research is becoming. He's been doing an enormous amount of work, and he really works with people on this. I tend to sit down and number crunch data, spend ages and ages deliberating over how this thing moves, what we should expect, and kind of going into our ancient history. I'm lost in kind of history books where he's a real kind of, he really works with people, getting their shots out there endlessly, almost every day, like Steve Olsen likes, well, there's, we have all these kind of, we don't have that many real video makers who work with people in the same way as people like Alex Lujan. We do, but there's some real key players out there that are really constantly doing this work of getting people out there. And Steve Olsen, Alex Lujan are key have become real key players in that now. And Alex Lujan's shot, I don't know when the video came out. It must have been today. I'm assuming it must have come out today. Could have come out yesterday, but it's recent, and it is the most. I've made videos on Planet X for a lot of years now, and I tell you what, that his latest video is the most sensational video, and it's exactly because you asked me how I came into this, but just for the update for where people are right now, because you've got to remember it's the 6th of February today, right now. This is the day. We've seen twice massive earthquakes in Taiwan on this day, the 6th of February 2016 and the 6th of February 2018. And if we are to if we are to kind of like if we're going to take heed of any of that information, we have to understand if my timeline is correct, and my timeline may be completely incorrect. And as you said, I've had to upgrade it and change it. But if we're going to look at the fundamentals of where this is at the moment, we can understand that. Let me just get it up on screen. Can I just go to screen share here?
Yes, absolutely.
If I just click the screen share, and we'll just go over to what do we want? Yes, we probably want that video. I'm hoping that video there. Come on, start screen. So hopefully you can see my screen there. Let me make sure. If I go back a little bit, and before we get to these shots here, where can you see my screen?
Yes, Dave. Yeah, it's up there.
So I know you asked, how I got onto Planet X, but I've got a funny feeling that before I tell you that,
okay,
when this point here where you're going to see these images here, these recent images, recent images coming through here. I'm just going to take you through those before I go back to those.
Absolutely.
This point here where you can see the twin tail object coming towards Earth here, and Earth hopefully moving out the way. Now, the images that I've been shown up to date kind of implied that this had passed us and actually gone past us this way over here where my cursor's going now. But if this thing had, we basically want to go past it before it goes past us, because if it had gone past us and it had carried on past over here, we would, without any doubt whatsoever, have to pass through this tail, because this whole tail would follow it behind. This would be over here. We'd have to go through it. That would not be a good situation.
Absolutely. So you're saying it's a race, basically. We're trying to get past here before or if not, we're gonna get caught in all this debris behind here.
Exactly, and this is the situation that we've got, and that's why we're going to end up on Alex Lujan's kind of like his latest video that hopefully you can bring up on after this, and just bring up the whole thing so people can see the links, and just show a couple of images, because you've really got it's just so sensational what he's showing okay. There. So we are that image there. This point here was the dream I had when I first had a dream. All my images have brought me back to this very thing. This is what I've always tried to work with, because what you're seeing there is what I saw in a dream. In the dream, it started with me being chased by army soldiers down the land that I keep my caravan on in Glastonbury. The sun had gone out. Well, I was being chased by these soldiers, and then a friend jumped out in front of me, and he said, Dave. And I said, what's going on? And he said, I didn't say, why are those soldiers chasing me? I said, why is the sun gone out? And I'm not absolutely saying this is what's going to happen, because maybe this is not going to be the big flyby. Yeah. But I said, why is the sun gone out? And he pointed up, and he said, because of that. And immediately I saw where he was pointing up. I got shot straight out into space. I saw the Earth. I saw there was no sunlight hitting it. And I looked behind me. I wasn't a body. I was just a point of consciousness. I looked behind me, and I just saw this I saw the sun, and I saw this massive body coming towards me, and it went straight past me, heading for the sun, heading for Earth. And then Earth started moving out of the way of it. I saw this crest of light move to the left-hand side, and then it just carried on moving out the way, and Earth just went straight past. There was a massive plasma bulb between the two, and it just carried on going. Wow. And then immediately I came out of the vision, and I went to my computer, and I went to the space, my odd bits file, where I go and I offload stuff that is open to any. It's just open kind of framework of anything can come through. It's free space. And I wrote into this space, and I said, it misses, doesn't it? Tell me it misses. And the answer I got was, Yes, it misses. It is not human karma. It is deemed you are not a race of war, but you are a race subverted with war, and that will now change.
Wow.
And that's what told me, and that's how it started for me. And it was that point. And so all my models have all come to this point, always trying to work out how it could come from as if appearing to come from the direction of the sun.
Yeah.
And skim around. Now, if I was to, I won't continue this now because it's not on this particular video, but if I was to continue this specific model that enabled me to get all the sightings that are in this specific model, I cannot find another point where this comes into close proximity to Earth. That doesn't mean that absolutely this is happening now. It means that, you see, if this doesn't happen now, if it doesn't happen now, it basically means that it's more likely to happen at some time in the future, or that we're through it, or that we've done it. If that thing has passed us, and it could have passed us already behind us. It could have gone, if you can see my cursor, it could have already gone this side of that. And that passage could have been going on until we could have done it. But then we haven't seen enough signs of it passing into our night sky. And I would have expected us to be in the proximity of a lot of red dust already.
Yeah.
But we've seen all the other sightings. We've seen so much. I'm just going to skim back. You know, we saw, Roger Paul post this on the 18th of January. We saw Jim Saar post this on the 12th of January. It's just getting smaller from there. We're going backwards here. You know, Steve Wilson posted this back on the sort of like back in early January.
Yeah.
But that's that. He actually, I believe, the actual original footage of these two, because this was at this one on the right here was obviously later than this one. So this was around about the 8th of January. This was around about the very beginning of January. Then we go back and I'm trying to think of the name of this. This was posted by Relentless Maverick.
Yeah.
And you can just about see it. It looks around about the 5th of Jan. And then we go back to, we're just going backwards here. Don't forget, this was the big tsunami I predicted.
Yep.
So obviously we're going to have the sighting, and then we have the massive sighting over India, and we're going backwards here. But, we've just... There was that famous sighting there. I often bring that in the same day as on the 17th of August. I won't take you all through I can briefly just take you through. I mean,
sure.
We can remember Matt Rogers' shot on the 15th of August, where we can see these asteroids and everything else like that. Absolutely. And if we go forward from beyond that point, we've got that point we're in 2017 here, where we see that red dust. So we can see that's gone past us by that stage, and we go through the tail of it. We had the sightings like this. This was on the 21st of January, same day as Trump's inauguration. I mean, I know that all your viewers would have seen all of this, so I'm not going to kind of keep going too much into that. But all of these sightings fit together on this model, and
precisely on this model. That's one of the main things that blows me away about your model, is that each time you called for a flyby, we have visual evidence, and usually there's something that's also happening on the earth as far as earthquakes, tsunamis, as physical evidence to kind of coincide with that.
And this model was only half true, really. Becky Lewis had been screaming at me at certain points, just because the model wasn't complete. And it wasn't until we'd had that sighting on the 17th of June when it was over here, which didn't make any sense, because I had it going round over here because it fit, all the cycles made sense, but there were still anomalies, and I just couldn't work out those anomalies, because unless we have a specific sighting in a specific place that gives me the absolute data, we can make it up, but I can't work with just making it up. It's got to work on a model for me to run a correlation. If it doesn't work on a correlation, it's not going to work for me. And it wasn't until we had the sighting on the 17th of June over here, and when we'd gone past this point here, when we'd had all the magma spewing out of Hawaii, which made sense over here, but it didn't fit into my old model. But we hadn't had enough data for us to make this whole cycle. We just haven't. It basically wasn't close enough for it. We weren't getting enough patterns. But as soon as we had that, we could then make a whole new correlation. I mean, it took a lot of work. I had a few subscribers that really helped me out and chucked some money in. And ironically, I still haven't managed to access half that money. You know, no matter what I do, I haven't managed to. And the other half, as soon as I got it, suddenly I got a fine from the Queen for non-payment of road tax, even though they hadn't notified me that my road tax. So the money comes in one side, it immediately goes out the other side. It was such a tragedy that, you know, that GoFundMe won't release the money on one side and or half the money on one side, and then the other side just gets taken by the Queen as soon as it comes through. It's just like, you will not be able to earn a penny through this. I mean, and not that I try to earn money out of it. I've never earned money out of it. I had one other subscriber that came forward, you know, bless him, and came forward and sort of like paid for my flight to America when I came out, which was ironically when we had the 7th. I literally flew out literally at the same time as the big flyby on the 17th of August 2017, which was, like I say, the same day where the ESO recorded the massive gravitational anomalies, and they told us that 230 million light years away, 2 neutron stars had collided. But they also told you at the same time that they'd experienced gamma rays and electromagnetic rays at the same time. Now, we're told that gamma rays, or gamma radiation, is a light wave, which in theory, in my understanding, is light, which means it travels at the speed of light, which means if that thing happened 230 million light years away and we experienced the electromagnetic energy instantaneously, but the light energy should have, if it was 230 million light years away, should have come 230 million light years later.
Absolutely. And Dave, I have a theory that the blue Kachina gives off gamma rays, and a lot of people out there also believe that the blue Kachina is emitting large amounts of gamma. So, you know, that kind of, you know, makes sense when we think of the Nemesis system too.
Absolutely. So let me just come straight back out. Let me go back over to these and we'll see if I can just switch that off. And so hopefully, can you see me again now?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Okay, so that's where I'm at with the model, really, and I might invite you to or ask you to sort of like pick up and take it a bit further and see if we can now have a little look at Alex, just to get Alex, have a little peep show at sort of like of what Alex.
Oops. Oops, I lost your audio, Dave. Hold on. Lost your audio, brother. Right, I lost your audio. Hold on, Dave. I lost your audio, brother. Okay, you're muted over here. There you go.
You got me?
There you go. Oop.
You got me?
There. Yes, sorry. Yeah. All right. You want me to take over on the screen here?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay. See if we can get this switched over. That way you want to go to Alex Lugin's video. All right. Make sure we're seeing this, or everybody else is seeing this. All right.
I've got Bob Dobbs spinning on my Google Hangouts. It's really quite cool how Bob. I don't plan any of that. It's quite incredible that Bob Dobbs has just suddenly appeared on there and just started spinning. I must have put it into one of the sort of like, you know, because when I set it up, I set the channel up as Subgenius TV, and I put a is it a GIF in there, and it's somehow obviously come through to this in some way. It's quite the coolest thing. That's just hilarious.
Now, Dave, I did bring up when reality smacks you in the face, and this is the Planet X Alex Lujan video. Do you want me to keep it on mute, or do you want the audio playing? How do you want me to do this?
I would just go through, and we'll just stop at I would keep it on mute, and we'll just stop it on a couple of the images as he goes through.
Okay.
And you know, I would just stop it on a few of the images so we can just direct the people to because the video has just gone up, and I'd much prefer people to actually go onto his channel right now, and obviously I don't want to take any traffic away from Alex at the moment, because he's developing, and people really should go and subscribe. He's doing an enormous amount of work, but I just want to get an idea of where this thing might be right now, really, rather than sort of like, you know, I'm just, you know, is it real what we're talking about here? Is there something going on right now? Should we be expecting it?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Right now, it's got an image of the moon with an object to the right of it. Yeah. How far are you wanting to go into the video?
Well, just keep going along. Just keep buzzing along.
Okay.
On the timeline, and keep going a bit further. And we're going to start seeing a few
asteroid objects.
Just keep going. Just keep going. Keep going. It's quite once we he's bringing in some history here on some asteroids as well, and it's really worth. But I don't think we should waste too much time on that specifically right now, because Alex is opening up a little line on some of this history stuff, and it's really worth going into his channel. But I don't know too much about the content, so I can't talk about it. But he's opening this up, and it's an intriguing thing, so I'd really recommend going through that. But we're going to come a little bit further. See if you can race forward a little bit further.
Okay.
Further than this. Further than this. These are some of the asteroids he's going to be talking about in the show, and it's a very interesting thing.
He does amazing work. Alex Lujan, he's one of my favorite places to go and get actual footage of planetary objects. So he's,
keep coming. We're going to get to some sensational stuff in a shake, and we can just give a little bit of a preview of what he's about to show you here. Keep going. I wouldn't even skip on this right now, but it's a very intriguing thing what he's showing you. Roundabout, we look like we're coming into the meat of it here. So this is the sort of stuff. He's just going to take you through a few images here of what seems to be in front of the sun, right now, between us and the sun. Now, we want to really hope, even though these images are going to scare you, you have to understand that we do not want to be on the other side of this, so that we have to go through the tail. We want this thing to be in between us and the sun, and to get right past it before it goes past us. We so want that as a scenario. Are you getting to see what he's showing you here? Keep going.
Okay.
Keep going. It's just going to blow you away. But you're in it now. You're in the vicinity of it. This thing here, can you see how big the shadow of this thing is?
Yes. Wow. Wow. I don't think people truly grasp how huge this thing really is compared to...
No, it's just absolutely beyond comprehension. Can you see the line of it there? The shadow line.
Wow.
And it's just going to get better and better and better. It's just getting more and more fantastic. It looks like it's virtually between us and the sun right now. Oh, but very close to us. We've been running almost parallel to it. Now you're starting to get the real. Here we go. Oh, what the hell is going on there? Look at that. We know what's going on there.
Yeah. Wow. Wow.
Look.
There it is again. Wow. Look at that.
It's just sensational.
Yeah. This is the first time I've seen this one, Dave.
utterly spellbound. I've just seen it myself, literally just before you you called in. I just wrote a little note on Alex Lujan's.
Is that it right there, Dave? Is that it, Dave? Right there?
Look at it. Just you cannot believe it.
Gosh. Wow.
I'm just, you know, it's just like it's as Alex says, it smacks you in the face. It's just like, oh my God, it's just like.
You know what's crazy, Dave? You had a dream that kind of started you. The same thing happened to me about 5 years ago. I had a dream of a giant red planet. And I mean, it was right next to the Earth, and it took up about 2/3 of the sky, and it was kind of striped like Jupiter. And that's what made me start a channel and everything, was a dream of a giant red planet. I mean, just took up 2/3 of the sky. It was fireballs raining down and everything. It was insane.
Yeah, it's really quite. I mean, and don't forget, I could still be so wrong with my model. My model is my best attempt to try and understand this through all this thing. This might not be what I'm seeing. It is, you know, it's just, and my model is a work of so many other people's work, bringing all these different shots together in various different models.
Look at that. Is that it again, right there?
Right, it's just like,
wow.
It is what it is, you know. It's looking. You may. Can we get another flyby? Is it going to be that we're going to do all this thing again, and this is going to do? It can still get closer than this. You know, there's so much I do not understand about this. There's so much information that I do not understand. This is, and for anyone who's watching this right now and I've been struggling so much with basic communication on the net, and so I have to shut down a little bit on communication, and I so don't mean to offend anyone out there on it. I simply cannot handle it sometimes. I get a lot of different stuff, and I just, in my state, inside my own being, I have to, even though I process a lot of information, when I contact people, I go really high and low, high and low, high and low. It takes me on a journey, and it makes me really unstable sometimes in it all, that I can't function with it all. If you like, my ego, I know that sounds a bit weird, but my ego gets involved, and I go on a bit of a high one. I get almost like I'm now. I go on this high, and then I go low, and I go high, and my ability to do the work that I do gets really phased when I go into those journeys, that I have to kind of abstain a little bit. So I don't mean it a personal thing that I don't maintain communication with people in the way I do. But when they're not people I don't really know, and they're not really friends, and it all gets a bit blurry, and then things happen, and I find that maintaining such relationships and maintaining these different things, I go on these big emotional rebounds that I have to kind of, like, during the times when I do timelines, I'm at the end of my tether, or because I'm putting a date on doom, and there's a massive karmic repercussions for people, because people get so angry with you when you do it.
Yeah,
when you draw a lot of attention to yourself, and it upsets people on so many different levels, in so many different ways, that I don't know what happens, but all these dynamics of conflict occur, and I end up right at the end of all of those. And I know when I put these dates out, it happens over and over. And many people could consider that all my dates up to date have actually been wrong, because the big one hasn't happened, even though I might have predicted a flyby. Technically, I'm wrong, and technically, maybe I am wrong. I can only do the best I can. I've got nothing to really run with this other than our history and that sort of stuff, and bringing this up together. We're trying to bring theology. We're trying to bring astrology. We're also trying to bring astronomy. We're trying to bring seismology. We're trying to bring kind of, our understanding of volcanoes and history and everything all into this whole thing, and try and bring an understanding of this together. And then we're trying to work. We've got to work through all the changes in the date calculator, in the dates. From the Julian calendar to the Gregorian calendar. There's many different parts and many different kind of like things that we're bringing in, that I spend most of my time locked in history books, locked in research, locked in stuff that is a far cry from being able to like run a channel effectively. What I'd love to have is a bit more money so I could have run this a bit more, so I could have run this, but then probably my ego would have got too involved and my head would have got too involved, and then, you know, so I become a hermit. I become a hermit. I have to be a hermit to do this, unfortunately. So if all of those people out there that send me, I promise you, I do look at all the stuff, but when I get in contact with people, I get so entrenched and you know, but that's it. And when I come out of the timelines, I reconnect with people again. So all those people who are communicating with me now that don't get replies, please don't take offense. I promise you, you will all hear from me in all due time. I promise you, everyone who writes to me, I do get a contact, even though it's late. I do get back to people when I come past the timeline, and then I can look people in the eyes again and I can say, okay, I've done it. Say what you will. Say I was wrong. I'm mad. I'm this. I'm that, and that sort of stuff. And then when I resurface, I recommunicate with everyone. So all your comments, I promise you, I will get in contact with everyone.
You know, Dave, the one thing that I've noticed about you is when you give the flyby dates, I think that, to me, I've always thought, just personally, you know, what me and you do is slightly different. I incorporate a lot of prophecy and theology into what I'm doing, and I show some pictures, but you're using a model, and you do give these timelines for these flybys, and I can tell, you know, it's a extremely heavy weight to be able to, because how people react to things like that. And I mean, you speak of that, of how you're aware to people will go out and prepare differently. Some people are frightened by it. And I've always thought to myself, man, that's got to be that you're extremely brave, for one, for sticking your neck out there and saying every time there's a flyby and saying, hey, you know, this object is going to go past, you know, this time. And for two, I think that your heart is in the right place. I think that that's another thing, you know, you can tell that you genuinely care about the people, and that's why you're trying to give them a heads up on these dates. So I appreciate what you've done for everyone. And it's not only helped, I think, people who have no idea what's going on, but it's helped people like myself who are researching this thing better understand. So I think you've done tremendous work. I'm a major fan of what you've done so far, Dave, and I think a lot of people are in the same boat as me. They really just appreciate all the hard work you put in, and I think any creator has to take time to withdraw. You know, you got to get your energy back up, right? I mean, it
makes you sick, though. It makes you sick. It really does. And you've only got to get one person who comes in and they start, and one person can get in contact with all the different video makers for whatever reason, for whatever motivates them. Maybe someone's fed them some information, and people start. It only takes one person, and then that one person can start an attack, and then people can suddenly realize, oh, this is a bit of a red herring. But whatever it is, it causes so much pain. It causes so much pain and anxiety, and it brings you down. It brings you down because already you've kind of had to, you feel like you've had to give up so many friends to do this, because people are just going to think you're mad for doing this, or going to write you off, or just have smirky comments, or can't actually talk to you without having to stick a dagger in, and just that little kind of like, and then twist it that little bit, that subtle little comment that they just think is amusing, but actually it's a total stab in the heart for you, because you let them in close as a friend, and just when they come in close as a friend, like, and it's painful. It happens over and over and over and over again when you do something like I do, and people don't realize that with your friends you hold so close, and that dagger that they wield is so painful when you actually. I mean, it's getting easier now because more people follow it now, and that sort of stuff. But actually, overall, this thing is unknown.
Yeah,
this thing looked at. and it's overwhelming, the effects. We've got nuclear power stations that have fallen open. Most of the Western world is in the story that carbon dioxide equals human caused. It's a human caused problem, and equals, to reduce the carbon dioxide, we need to build 1 billion cars and cover the world with nuclear power stations. Now, what happens if carbon dioxide is a totally natural process, is a sacred process, that without the carbon dioxide, there would be no life on this planet? Carbon dioxide, for a better word, is God. It's an essential part of the process of a planet. These volcanoes are chucking out loads of it, and an increased volume of carbon dioxide means an increased volume of volcanoes and earthquakes. And now, if you translate that into meaning build 1 billion cars and cover the earth with with nuclear power stations, so we could see something like Fukushima occur. Mm-hmm. Then you have to be questioning what is you see, as an environmental activist, which is what I've been most of my life, I was always with the carbon story, and suddenly I realized the whole carbon story has been used to take our best activists who are up for taking a stand and feeding them bullshit data. You see, if we want to save the world, at least before we talk about a solution to saving the world, before we even begin to talk about a solution to save the world, shouldn't we at least be willing to look at the absolute problem full-faced, really look at it, before we start trying to work out a solution, before we start throwing a bullshit story at it and turning the whole story upside, so everyone who comes in from the perspective of an activist is suddenly jumping on the story that feeds the fundamental nuclear industry from the onset, the seed concept that carbon dioxide is all caused by humanity, when it's actually clearly being caused by volcanoes and earthquakes.
Absolutely.
That is more of it. We are all living massive lies. We are surrounded by these lies everywhere. And all of the video makers. I remember when Dabu7 came on, when he started making videos, and I just thought, I mean, I don't mean to say this, if Dabu7, if you're watching this, I have so much respect for you, but I can remember your early videos, and they were a bit jarry, and the information was a bit kind of like, it wasn't too thought out. It was a bit sensational. It was coming. Yeah. Watch the guy grow and develop, and the more research he did, the more he uncovered. You know, he's like a cult classic now in himself.
Yeah. Dabu7 lives in the same area as me. So does Seven Spalding.
These guys are gods. You know, we're all gods, you know, in terms of actually what we're bringing through at the moment, because we are incarnate. We are in this planet, and it's happening through us. We are having the opportunity to show and bring in great wisdom. We can channel and bring in great wisdom to this world right now, but we have to look at the problems and come out of the lies and the deceptions that are holding us from seeing the truth.
Yes.
They will do everything right now to start their war, everything possible they can do to manifest their war right now, and everything you can do possible right now to wage peace and come out of any type of story that is dividing you from someone else, or is bringing you into a story where you are hating someone else, be it a refugee, or be it someone, you know, be it the Europeans. You're all thinking, I hate Europe, you know, I don't want anything to Europe. It's probably not Europe you hate. It's probably Tony Blair, who represented Europe. He was a perfect person. It's just like, we can create hatred by so many different ways. But I can promise you, humanity right now is in such a vibrantly high state, even though we're being told this horrible story that that of war and aggression. It's a story being thrown upon us. You don't have to go into that story. You can come out and think, no, I'm not going to go down any of those corridors right now. We were all migrants. America is built on migrants.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
We all of us at one point come from a point of families that were once migrants that arrived here. We have to come out of these stories of hate that all these politicians want us to be in a story of hate at the moment, and that is because when this planet goes by, it's an ancient sun. So it's like our sun, but much, much older. It's connected through portals with the universe in a much bigger way, because it's a much, much older story than our young sun. So when this thing comes by, it's like the gods are coming by through the portals that are opening through it, and they're saying, hi! So we have a window to the bigger universe when this thing comes by. And so these energies which subvert us desperately try and pull us down into a state of war, so that we're in hatred and negativity, so we can't connect to these high vibrations. Come out of these old paradigms, come out of these old stories, come out of these old programs of hate, divide, conquer, war, division, and come into something new, come into a new feeling of connectedness, of togetherness, of connecting to the highest aspirations that connect our world to the highest aspirations in the universe. That's where we want to connect right now. That's all in your heart. It's all available to you right now. You are the highest technology on this planet. Your living genealogy is the highest technology on this planet right now. That's a sensational shot. That just came in. That's an old shot that came in. Not an old shot. That's about a week old. Seen over Indonesia about a week ago.
This one?
Yeah. I didn't know if it was the moon or the sun. It was something coming in front of the moon or the sun.
Yeah, it's a very, very strange looking shot right there. It fascinated me when I seen it. And, you know, Dave, you mentioned these stories. We were talking the other day, just in a personal conversation about these very same things, about how these just like a script, man. They've got us. They almost want to keep us locked into these stories. That way we are divided. It's divide and conquer, and we keep us from realizing just how special and how divine and how truly sovereign and free, you know, we are, and that we have an opportunity here, you know, to create something beautiful. To you know, I think that, you know, Nibiru offers, you know, a fresh start. So to speak. You talk about this being the gods coming through, and a lot of people believe that this is attracted to negativity, to negative energy, and that it's like a purification. So there's a chance for a brand new, you know, start of positivity in a higher thinking, a higher consciousness of man. I think that you got to we look at both sides of this paradox here. And yeah, people look at it as doomsday and apocalypse, but that's to kind of be stuck in the fear and in the negativity. And there's a positive aspect in all of this as well, that we have a chance to transcend, to become more than what we have been in the past, and to stop allowing the ones who are trying to control the narrative, manipulate us into lowering our vibration and succumbing to that fear, and, you know, submitting to that negativity. So I really love the message, you know, that you have about not being, you know, just caught in this moment, because that's what it is. It's a moment.
It is a moment. We've definitely got to. It's all in the moment. That's where we've got to be right now. But that's what my mother keeps telling me. She said, you just got to be here in the now. That's the most powerful place you can be. Don't get lost in their stories. Try and look at the information and allow the information to tell you what it's telling you. Don't throw a story at it. Let it tell the story. Just look at what's happening rather than throw your story at it. Like you're some kind of like it has to be what your beliefs say it is. Why can't it be what it is?
I love that. I love that. That's probably the most beautiful advice I've heard. Just let it be what it is, and don't. And this is why, you know, religion and politics and all of these things have been so effective. You know, you've got this perception of what reality is, and you already have this preconceived notion of what it should be. And I think that hinders us from seeing things for what they actually are, and I think your mom's spot on, Dave. I think she's got it. So I really love that. I absolutely love that.
And then the other thing is, you're talking about the negativity, how it attracts negativity. Well, the way I see it attracts negativity is, I from my own message, when I first started writing, I asked the question, I literally posed the question, excuse me swearing on the show, but the question was literally, to paraphrase exactly, or not to paraphrase, but to say exactly, it was like me having a bit of a midlife crisis and going to South America to do ayahuasca to try and find out what the hell was going on, because I was going into a sadness in the state of the world, and I realized all the stuff that I was trying to stop was all just coming back, and it was full on, and I just wanted to get a question, I wanted to get answers, and I posed the question, what the fuck is going on? That's all I wanted to know, what the fuck is going on? It boiled it down itself. It was much, much more complicated before then. And as things had gone along, I'd narrowed my question down and boiled it down to that. It was just, I needed to stop throwing my story at it again and stop trying to want this and that. I needed overview. I wanted to know what the fuck was going on. That's the question. I was like, is that it? I just have to sit back here and watch my world be covered in nuclear power stations, the whole thing just go into absolute chaos on every level. Well, Fukushima hadn't occurred at that stage when I'd gone out there. That hadn't actually occurred. But I was watching the repeat. I was watching the build-up with aggression with what was happening at the time. It was 2008. And I won't go into the whole details of what led me into that, because that's what basically led me into writing Laughing Gas and that whole journey. And it's kind of another story in itself. But nonetheless, the answer I got was, your Earth, put simply, your Earth will no longer support duality. And when I started writing, that developed in your Earth will no longer support duality. It's time for ego to have a life of its own. And that basically we're all choosing whether we want to be our ego self or our higher self. That ultimately this has to be sorted out. We cannot have any more backseat drivers on this planet. People making things happen, but not in any direct line of responsibility for the actions. Ultimately, our egos make something happen, and guess what? We have to live with the consequences. Do you know that story?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think that's one of the things I talk about a lot on my show is the duality of the universe, and that we need to return to oneness, because I believe that everything comes out of the source, and that's what the origin of everything is oneness, the all, right? And we have divided ourselves in this duality paradox that we call the universe, and one has to ask himself, where does good end and evil begin? Where does hot end and cold begin? And even if you believe in a God and a devil, the devil came out of God, so all things are connected to one another. And we remain divided in so many different ways, and instead of embracing the oneness that is creation, I absolutely agree that there is something taking place that is that we need to get rid of this separation. And I absolutely believe that ego is another thing that I speak about a lot, how we have to die to that ego, because when our higher self isn't in control, then we do things that are most of the time self-centered, selfishly motivated, and detrimental. And this is the whole idea of religion, right? Of shifting your sin or whatever to somebody or something else, instead of taking responsibility and being accountable for what you have done. So I absolutely completely agree with with all of that, Dave. I think that this is one of the reasons our conversation was so profound the other day, is just because it's so many of these universal truths. We was talking about this awakening kind of, and how a lot of us that have even grown up and indoctrinated in different religions and different thoughts are now starting to see through all the bullshit of it all.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think so I was talking about my own, my own studies of how I kind of came to this idea of that there is ultimately going to be one. But I often thought, well, how does that work?
Yeah.
What mechanism of that in terms of an astrological, an astronomical tool, or in terms of the power of the gods? And the way I understand it now is that my guide, well, not specifically my guide, but one of the if you like, it's an angel, I suppose. My guide is called Running Water, but I work also with another being called White Cloud, and he came through once. My mum came through and she said, "Look, I've got." Your guy's not here. White Cloud is here, and he wants to have a word. And I said, okay. And then my mum sort of sat down and she channeled, and he came through and he said, look, first thing I'm going to tell you is I've bound you to your body. He said, I think you want that. And I said, what does that mean? And he said, it will all become clear, but you're not quite getting the full aspect of the story. He said, but you're going to get a message. And when this message comes through, you're going to have to make decisions. You will be completely on your own. And what you choose to do is it will be all down to what you choose to do and what you don't choose to do. You will have to make decisions. You will have to navigate independently. Those decisions have to be your decisions on what you choose to do. And he said, but when that message comes through, you'll know it. And upon that, you will have to make decisions. You will not be able to turn to anyone and say to them, do you think I should do this? Or do you think I should do this? You will have to navigate. I can see I've gone a bit. Have I gone? If I go like that, can you see me better now?
Yeah, I got you. Yes.
You'll have to navigate. And so he kind of gave me this kind of like this pet talk. And I often wondered what this kind of like this message was going to be. And of course, the message was what the vision I told you when I saw it flying past Earth. Mm-hmm. And now I'm understanding in terms of how you attracted negativity. What it is the electromagnetic. This has two effects fundamentally, as far as it has multiple effects, many effects. It affects us as we're all the ways we're seeing it, but it also it has the effect, as I'm understanding, of anything that any spirit that we've chosen to connect to on a spiritual level in this incarnation. We have all these other influences which we can also connect with. We mostly connect via mental links. They're psychic links. They're not possessions. And the difference between a possession and a psychic hack is that a psychic hack is a feed. It's like a thought-based narrative being psychically hacked into your state. It's not who you are. It's not what you are. But when someone goes and offers you a piece of information, and find your mouth talking, saying, oh, I don't believe in that. Oh, no, la, 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 la. And you find this pre-programmed narrative talking through you. And sometimes you can find yourself saying, and you hold your tongue. And you think, I don't know if I want to say that. I don't know if I want to shut this person down. I don't know if I want to belittle this person. I don't want to know if I want to give them a negative feedback. So you say, oh, really? Or whatever it is, you don't believe it, but you don't shut them down. You choose to different pathway. The narrative could come out of your mouth, but you choose to hold it. You choose to hold your tongue. That is when you make a choice to stop a narrative and allow the universe to be what it is. You don't obstruct it. You think, that can be the way it is. I don't have to shut that down. Now, I'm not necessarily saying that is necessary. That auto response is necessarily the ego. But we have to sometimes realize that it's coming through us automatically. We wouldn't identify it as an invasion. It's a narrative that's constantly there, that has always been there, that is being fed into us. Now, what happens is many of these narratives have honed into our sphere, our psychic sphere, our kind of our being, our psychic being. Let's call it our psychic body, our energetic body, and it's got our codes, it's got our signals, it's hacked in. We take it as I. But when this thing comes by, everything, only the signal that we are focusing on will be the present signal. That will be the predominant signal. If we want to be that narrative, then we can choose to be that narrative. It's not that narrative is evil. It's just that that's the narrative that we're choosing to hold on to. We can also go to this space and come out of that space. And all the fear and all the noise and all the everything that come out of that. We can bypass that. And we can come back here to a much more stable place in our breath. You know, just this is the place. Now, what is rooted to the heart is very, very, I define it. The last time I really wrote about it, I defined it as the leaves of the palm tree in a great storm. And you see them blowing, but they just don't break away. They can take the most incredible tornadoes and the tree will fall down and the roots will snap before the leaves break. But when that wind blows, it feels as if it's like this is what a psychic attack is, when something is trying to usurp your existing soul link. And if you ever take ayahuasca and you get psychically attacked and you have to go through a psychic attack, which sometimes you do, and this is how you learn about it. And very often, if you go to do ayahuasca and you really want a journey, you will be tested before it happens. You will have some crazy experience where someone will try and psych you out. You'll either get busted by a copper or some crazy situation will unfold, and you have to take control of the situation and not go into fear and navigate through the whole thing without any fear. And you'll be tested. And that's why ayahuasca is a very, very big thing to take on board. It's not for everybody. And you have to have very, very strong intentions of what you're trying to achieve. Or you have to, you have to go into it with intention. It's a very kind of like, and this is a time when you need to go into it with intention. Stay in your heart. Don't get pulled into these horrible stories of hate and wars and division and Brexit and Europe done it and Mexico done it and La done it and all these stories of blame. Come out, those stories, come out. Come back here. Just come back here. Come back to your breath. Really come out of those stories and really try and come into what is going to be essential in this. Friends and your community and that sort of stuff. For me right now, it's so important for me to actually be in the doing of who I am now. Not try and stay in other people's stories of what it isn't and what it shouldn't be. And that's all just too mad and that's too eccentric and that's this and that's that and rules and regulations and belief and control. And it's just like... And I can see how people could take my story as all of that, as another story, is another story. But in that other story, I try and show you the information behind what I'm saying. I try and show you a corroboration of evidence that I haven't put together, that's coming in from across the board, that I cannot influence or control like some magician or puppet, that it just comes together beyond me, that I can show you as a news story, as a news feed, the information coming in, this person showing it, and we can piece this together. Because without that corroboration, I haven't got a mode of true science. Because that is, people would say that when you talk with the word prediction, you cannot be a scientist because scientists don't use the word predictions. Well, I show loads of predictions over and over again. I show my science. I call them predictions because that's my communication. That's the way I express it. I have a model. I have my data. I present the data. I make predictions for the future. If they are correct, then my model, that is my science. That is, I may not be academic. I haven't got a degree. I used to study Chinese medicine, and I did all my anatomy, my physiology, my sort of basic history, and I was top 3 in terms of I was one of only 3 people who passed the Chinese herb. That's 370 herbs in Chinese. Passed the herb exam in the first year because I practiced and I did the work. But I couldn't go with it because I was so driven to write. I had to give it up to carry on. But sometimes you've got to go down any road. It doesn't matter whether it's the right road or the wrong road. As long as you're doing something, you can navigate. It's when you stop and you're going nowhere, you won't know if you're going in the right direction or the wrong direction. You have to do something. And not that Chinese medicine wasn't right for me. Chinese medicine was what I needed because it was such a difficult subject to study. It forced me to wake my mind. It forced me to wake my mind. I had to do the impossible to study Chinese medicine because it's just so much information that you have to find a different way to use your mind. Yeah. You have to work. Yeah. The first mnemonic I ever learned, it's a bit rude, but it's it's called ooh, 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 to touch and feel a girl's vagina after hours. I don't know if you've ever heard it.
No.
It's the most famous mnemonic it's probably the most famous mnemonic for remembering the cranial nerves. Ooh, ooh, ooh. Optic, olfactory, ooh, 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 oculomotor. I can't say it and point to my tongue at the same time, but oculomotor. Ooh, ooh, ooh. To touch, trachea, trigeminal, to touch, and abducens, feel, facial, auditory, girls, glossopharyngeal, vagina, vagus, after, accessory, hours, hypoglossal. So you can imagine that sort of like when you have these kind of mnemonics and you divide 370 herbs into, say, just 25 mnemonics. Jinx, Leon, banned puppets using sheath bear daggers because shaving toxic gins yearly quenched heat. Jinx, Jin Yin Hua, Jinx, Leon, Lian Ban Jen, Ban Lan Jens, puppets, Wu Gong Ying. It's just like this thing, the way you get it into your head, and then you can roll these things off because you've got a system. Unless you systemize, the mind and learn to systemize the mind, you cannot navigate information successfully and put it into big constructs that can finally make sense, that you can build big models. And so, Chinese medicine was just a doorway for opening my mind in a different way than I'd been trained in schools. I left schools without any qualifications, CSEs. I was in the bottom sets for everything. I left school at 15. I was told you got no brains, go and be a mechanic because you're clueless. And yet suddenly I could barely read and write when I left school. And yet here I am writing books, kind of studying the most incredible things, going into the most incredible types of, I go into, I don't know, it's just the mind can be opened. Anyone's mind can be opened with study and intention. And really right now, what you need is clarity with great divine intention. Just think about all the loveliest things you want to happen right now, and all the loveliest things you want to do in the world, and all the lovely people that have been a part of your journey forward, that have really assisted you, all the people that have loved you, all the people that you love. You know, just remember all the good things, not all this political nasty spin that leads you into a story of any type of hatred. If someone is giving you anything that is leading you into a thing where you're good and they're bad, off. Switch it off. Switch it off and come back to this right now. There's a much bigger story going on right now. There's a much bigger story. The gods have opened up a door to us right now. The big gods that connect with the big universe have opened up a door to us right now and are saying, hi. And they're asking us, do you need a hand in there at the moment? Are you struggling a little bit? Are you getting pulled down by a few dark forces? Do you want to change the record? Do you want to do something completely different? Do you want to do something completely fantastic that's beyond anything you have ever experienced, or you have experienced on this planet for a very, very long time? Do you want to go up where Abraham sacrificed his own son on an altar, a blood sacrifice with his own son? Wouldn't you like to do some kind of different practice from now on? Wouldn't you like to connect with the gods in a different way right now and do a different type of practice? You know, we had to do that. That was an essential part of our long line of evolution, to go through all of these different stages, all of these different vibrational stages. This planet will no longer support war. It will no longer support this type of technology in a state of war. It will no longer support any of the things we're doing on this level. But we have an opportunity to take it to a much higher place. And in many ways, that means going backwards to realizing the real value of a horse, the real value of cattle, the real value of sacred seed, the real value of the human state, or the real value of the world we really live in. Take away the rush. We're all running around paying these massive mortgages and everything else like that. Where's the real life? Where's the real value of the moment in running around like a headless chicken, just paying a mortgage of a house that then you're going to lose at the end of your life? And it's going to, where is all the value in all this? There's so many, we've hit a wall on so many fronts, and all built on this, nearly all of the shit that we're experiencing now is built on the carbon story, that carbon is evil.
Yeah.
We need to look at the stories that we're living and we're being given and take them, look at the truth of what's really happening. And then from looking at that truth, the answers will be so simple. They are so simple if we're willing to look at the absolute problem. How can we solve a problem if we're not even willing to look at it? We look at the problem, but we throw a story at it.
Every single time.
Anyway, my friend, listen, it's just coming up to 12:30 here, and I've got a friend here, and I've got to sort them out, and so I'm gonna have to cut off in a minute.
You've been amazing, Dave. I appreciate you. And you taking the time out to come on. You're amazing, brother.
You also, man. I tell you, I heard your video the other day, and I loved the narrative. You know, you're talking about the Bible, and the Bible says that, or Revelation says that. But I mean, does that have to happen?
I hope not.
Keep on doing what you're doing. Get lots of people on your show. Get lots of great people on your show. There's a lot of great speakers out there that got a lot of wonderful things to say. This is just one side. And like I say, this could come in now. I could be completely incorrect. It could be just another, where it's really close, but it's not going to get closer. I can't make any more flybys happen. So this is, for me, this is out. We've got the patterns of what we've seen. This kind of I call it the crosspoint patterns, where we keep seeing this sightings around about the 20th of January. It could be that this thing's going to just keep going and it's going to keep getting bigger and that sort of stuff. But I can't show any more. I can't make any more sense of it than what I've made of it from this point. I've tried so many different models. For me, it's now. And if it's not now, then it means I'm kind of out on answers, really. I'm out on answers. I can't make any more flybys happen or can't make any more assessments of flybys because I haven't worked that out. Maybe in future I'll be able to put more time and more effort and come up with more correlations. But as of the moment, I'm struggling to do that. Maybe I'll change that. Maybe I'll come back after this. I don't think emotionally I can put another date on this because it's turned my life upside down already too much to do this. It's you know, it's been too much of a burden for me. It's cost too much. And but I'm still alive. Hey, I'm still alive, you know, and I'm wiser, and it's opened a universe of learning to me. It's maybe grey way before my time, you know, and it's probably all the rest of it. And it's been this most epic adventure. My life has been a wonderful adventure, and I've shared it with so many wonderful people. And I moan sometimes because of the difficulties I've had with this, but then it's been the greatest gift and the greatest opportunity. I've had purpose in this life. I've had a feeling of purpose. You know, to actually be on a journey and connected with what I feel is God, my connection with my divine state. And so it's been a great honor and a great gift to be here on this planet at this time and feel that I've had an opportunity to be in service to something higher than myself. Whether, you know, a lot of people might think that's an ego statement, but I promise you, I tell you, I live in a caravan. I have nothing. You know, I've always lived in caravans. I had to give up having houses and everything else like that a long time ago to do this. So I could actually focus on the things that I needed to do rather than like going after chasing houses and stuff like that. I'll probably never have a house and have a home of my own and that sort of stuff in this world. You know what I mean? I'll probably always live like a two-bit traveler in a flea-ridden, dirty old caravan. You know what I mean? That costs, you know, next to nothing. You know what I mean? That might be the destiny for my entire life. Most people like myself have to kind of live and die broke. Maybe that's the offering I offer to Shiva. I give it up. You know, I let it go. If it comes my way, that's great. But is it going to come my way? I'm not gonna fight for that in any which way. I wrote a book. I've barely sold any copies of that book, really, overall. I've had I had someone get in contact with me the other day, said, I read your book. You know, and every now and then I get someone say, but ultimately and that's not a dig. That's just the way it is. We live in a time where most people don't read. There's too much noise in their head at the moment. I struggle to read. I really struggle to read. You know, a couple of days ago, I sat down and it pained me to sort of like to go through, you know, Ingersoll Lock. I think it's Lockwood. You know, he's got a number of books, and I managed to get through his books in a couple of days. But it was absolute torture for me to sit down and read. You know, unless a book's really, I mean, it's amazing writing, I've got to say. Ingersoll, you can get it, you can download it, and it's incredible writing. You know, the stories of Baron Trump.
Yeah.
And in actual fact, I'll leave you on that. I'll leave you on the stories of Baron Trump's adventures into the underworld. But I'll leave you with I'll leave you, if you don't mind, with this this bit of text at the beginning of his of Ingersoll Lockwood's it was the what was the name of the book? Sorry, I come to it. It was, oh, why does it not say? Tell me it's gonna say. I can't remember the name of the book. Maybe author and originator of the Cult of the Immortal Human. So I haven't read that one yet. It's the Cult of, not the last president. I can't remember the name of it now. Anyway, I'll just read you the section. He's only got it. It's not the story. It's the Cult of something. I can't remember what it's called. I'll try and find it. I'll come back to it after I've read you the section. How about that? It says there is. It says there is but one form of human enslavement more villainous and more detestable than the chains of the tyrant or the shackles of the despot, and that is the enslavement of the human mind under ecclesiastical, tyranny, whose cowering and crouching victims at the crack of the priestly lash are driven from the cultivation of their own intelligence, from the custody of their own thoughts, from the guardianship of their own souls, and who, like whipped dogs, trembling and whining in abject submission at the feet of the oppressor, lick the very hand that wields the lash. So let me just see if I can give you the name of that. If I just zip back. It was called, come on, see if it's still there. Is he going to go? It's Laconics of Cult.
Wow.
Laconics of Cult. And so it sounds like a really dark, suspicious book. And actually what he talks about there is how to make a god. And he talks about how if you want to make a god, you're basically, it's like 33-degree Masons. He's talking about, he's showing you how they do it and how dark forces are used to take over people's minds. And you basically take the god that you want to use, that you're really trying to take. So say you're taking Jesus and you're trying to turn Jesus into a god, but you actually want Jesus to be a different type of god than maybe he really was. So you take that story, then you take the god so you take the god you're trying to usurp, say Jesus or whatever it is. You take the god that you're really trying to bring in, and then you take, so there's thirds of each, a third of one, a third of the other, and then you take a third of manipulated sort of science, if you like, and you create a story between the three to create a new kind of, this is along the lines of how someone does what I've just described, what was just described at the beginning of the chapter and so it's a very interesting analogy in the creation of cults. So he's more trying to show you how to liberate yourself from a cult in this book and show you how cults work than trying to get you into a cult. But anyway, so I just thought I'd play that because I thought that was really interesting, because everyone's talking about how, people are talking about how Baron Trump might be kind of like this Baron Trump from the adventures in the underworld, and he went into a time machine and blah, 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 blah. And I was just so curious about this in the end. I thought, well, what is this book that everyone keeps going on about? And actually, when I read it, I was just like, oh, God, it is actually quite interesting.
Man, anyway, coming on, Dave. You've done amazing job. Everybody loves you here on the podcast. And you're just a great person. I just appreciate everything. The message is one that I agree with. Create their own story. It's a beautiful one.
Bless you, John. Well, it's a great pleasure being on, man. Hopefully we can do this again. Hopefully we're going to get onto the other side of this, and hopefully it's all going to be over, and then we can sort of move on to some wild adventures where hopefully we can take humanity to somewhere it's really special beyond this warring story of hate and divide and conquer and greed and all the nasty things and depleted uranium. Let's take it up somewhere else, man. Let's do something better on this earth.
Absolutely.
Take care, man. Thanks for having me on your show.
Right. No problem.
Take care, man. Bye-bye.
I just I want to thank everybody, for coming. I know we had a little feedback there at the end of the episode on the Jason there. But I just appreciate you guys. Dave Dobbs is an amazing guy. He's a very good Planet X researcher. And this is one of the things I thought was so cool about him coming on was, we talked about Planet X and we talked about Nibiru, but, a lot of what we just talked about now, his spiritual beliefs and his ideas about reality, this is like what we talked about, when it wasn't on the air. And it kind of gives you a look into the depth of a person, and you can kind of look into a person's their soul, a little bit more when they're willing to bear it for you. So I think that, to me, is an extra special treat when someone comes out and they show you their heart and what they truly believe and what their true hope or humanity is. And I couldn't agree with Dave more. Yes, the Bible and Revelation does have a story, and Scripture, the base word being script, it's the story of this matrix, and maybe though we can look at it as a possible outcome, and the ones who choose to tap into the source, the Father, and to choose peace and to choose love, and to be connected, and togetherness and all things good, that's not the story that I believe we will end up with, the story that's described as the one of judgment is for those who play a part in the war and the evils of this world, but the story that's described for the ones that don't is a new heaven and a new earth, right? Where there's no more tears or anything like that. So there is two different outcomes. So I think all of us can agree that we would much rather be a part of the latter. So I want to thank everyone for joining me. You guys are amazing. I'm going to shout you guys out. No thanks, Jane Bond, sorry. This is feminine. Robbie Rice, Silverberger, Kitten T, Cheryl Lehi. Let me make sure I get all you guys here. You guys have been amazing. Fifth World, Emily, Shane, Kato, Nine Tails. So you guys have been awesome. As always, you guys are always awesome. So I just appreciate you guys to see Pyramid 7, Shoshana Rose. We should have some more interesting guests coming up. Nigel Worsley, my evil twin, Earthly Patriot, BKB 1976. I love all you guys. You guys can send your emails to the Real SDM Podcast at gmail.com. Podcast, www.spreaker.com/user/SDM Podcast. You can support the channel at www.paypal.me/SDM Podcast or patreon.com/SDM Podcast. I love all you guys, and actually, you guys are coming out, and make sure you go to Dave Dobbs' channel. If you're not subscribed, I'm sure you probably are, but if you're not, go subscribe. Show him some love. He's an amazing guy, seriously. So, and maybe just at least say, thank you for all the hard work he put in and being able to give us a heads up on, this thing, and how we have this ability to judge when these flybys come through. So remember, Jesus is the truth, the way, and the life. Love you guys.